All right, welcome to another episode of Unraveling Success. Today, I am so lucky to have Curtis Boyd with me. Curtis lives in Charleston, South Carolina, and he lives with his significant other, Amanda, and their adorable son, Kobe James. And
Mhm.
they own Uniservice LLC and Unlocked Potential LLC. So, a man of multiple passions here. And in his past, Curtis has been involved in sales, moving, and manufacturing, so well rounded. And in his pastime, he loves fitness, sports, family, and travel. His key to success is consistency. And yeah, welcome, Curtis. I'm excited to chat with you in our just behind the scenes when we were getting ready to hit play.
Yeah,
You're just really easy to chat with, so excited to share your story with everybody.
absolutely. Thanks, Beth. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
We're here.
yeah. Well, let's start first with having you share your personal definition of success.
Honestly, I'd say my personal definition of success is like having the freedom and the time to do the things you want. So many people get caught up in their day to day or their business and all that stuff, and they tend to forget about like time with family or those couple hours with their kids. And it's like, you got to work, but at the same time, success is like that freedom, that time, having that back with your family.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So when I saw the definition that you shared, I first of all I love it because freedom is one of my personal core values, so that
Hmm.
resonates with me.
Yeah,
And then I also thought it was interesting because, as I shared with you just a little bit ago, I'm just finishing up the book "Buy Back Your Time" by Jim
yeah,
Martell. Super great book. So if you're ever looking, and it's just an easy implementable book.
yeah.
Um, and so, what are some of the ways that you feel like you buy back your time? Like, how do you maybe delegate out small tasks and that type of thing?
Well, I can start out by saying I try to leverage off as much as I can in the business. Like my biggest skill trait is that I'm very comfortable with anybody I walk into. So in our business, like when I walk onto a project or work with a client, if there is something that I excel at and something I kind of lack at or a little bit slower pace on, we then outsource that. Like for instance, we just did a job recently where we had touch ups. This is in the handyman business. We had touch ups, fixing a fan, pressure washing a sidewalk, painting. So I brought in a pressure washer, I brought in a painter. You know what I mean? So that way, instead of taking multiple days to try to do it yourself and collect more money, it's like, okay, let's knock this out in 24 to 48 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
you got people working in different areas. So that's how I buy back my time. So that way I'm not spending 3 days on a project with myself versus having six people there doing different things and different processes and time schedule. More project management is the biggest thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like everything in your life and live out of a calendar. I tell people like
Yeah.
I live out of a calendar. You got to schedule your day. If you don't, you'll get lost in it like super fast,
Yeah.
especially when, oh, I got to do this or I got to pick up the kids or I got to go to the grocery store. I got to stop by this job. Or I got to stop by this project. It gets hectic. So,
Yes. And you said
mhm.
something that I've learned over time. Like, I do this, and
uh,
I'm naturally a bit of a planner, and so
yeah.
I am very much live by my calendar, and
Hmm.
it's color coded, so I have like my personal stuff, my business stuff, and it all kind of just flows, so I can just see like what
Yeah,
the next thing is. But
absolutely.
one of the things that I've learned over the past couple of years is there's a lot of people that don't do that.
Oh yeah, gives me anxiety, and people are like, "How do you know when?" I was like, "You gotta schedule it."
Yeah,
Wow, so
yeah.
many people don't do it. It's like even when I get fitness clients, they're like, "I don't know how to fit my gym," and the first thing I do is I'm like, "Tell me your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Give me everything from when you wake up to when you go to bed, and I can promise you, I can find a place for you to make it work. You just gotta put
Totally.
it on paper."
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't realize how many people don't. I think that's awesome that you do that color coding,
Yeah.
everything. Like you have to be organized with your schedule and your. It's like you have to be selfish with your time to be to optimize it at a high rate. Like if you don't, you'll just be all over the place. You'll be missing meetings. You'll miss this. You'll miss that, and it gets crazy.
It totally does. And
Hmm.
I would say in the past year, because I've always done my business one, and then Sunday nights, I'll sit down and I'll
Hmm.
like write out my whole week so I kind of know the flow, and I'll kind of pull together the personal calendar. So we have like a
Yeah.
personal family one, and then I have my business one.
Yeah.
And I've started to now, I pull over my personal one so it all flows like it, and I mean, it's a little bit crazy looking at my calendar sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, just having a good idea of like what my transition times for things are. And
Yeah.
I know in the book that I'm reading, they talk about having like zero white space. And so
Yeah.
now I set my time, like I wake up at 4:10, and from that time on, it is just straight on through. And then I realize that in the afternoons, usually starting after like 3:30, I start to just be like, I'm ready to transition into like not being on for work.
Yeah.
And so I've started to just completely block, like I take my last meetings that start at 3, but no
Yeah.
meetings past that, just because then I'm
Yep.
starting to just,
Yeah, it's like you follow like I tell people, it's like your circadian rhythm that you follow type of thing.
totally.
Like everybody like there's some people that can be optimal at night and they stay up late
Yes.
and and then like me, I'm the same as you. I go to bed at like anywhere between 8 and 10 o'clock, but I'm up every single day at 3:30
Yeah.
a.m.
Good.
And
Good for you.
it's like, and then but there also is days where my body's like, no.
Yeah.
Today's not the day you're getting up at 3:30, like maybe like 4:30, or
Yeah.
maybe 5. But there's days like that. But like having that schedule, like, and most people, do you also schedule, like, say for instance, like your rest time? Like that's why they say zero spaces, because it's like if I say I need to eat breakfast between 6:45 and 7, that's when I set it. So there's really no space, but I schedule everything,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
is true. And it's like when I was talking to you earlier about how I was realizing I was forgetting to like schedule my lunch. And so I would
Yeah.
go straight through. And
Yep.
there was a week that I have this like clear protein stuff for my water that I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, my lunch is going to be my clear protein water, because at least it like
Yep.
fills me up enough. But I'm like, that's not sustainable. So then I was like, I need to add a block for lunch in here so I actually remember to eat, which
Yep.
then also helps me remember to actually bring something to eat, because half the time it's either I scheduled myself over time and I didn't allow
Yeah.
myself any time to eat, and then sometimes it's that I don't even have the foresight to like grab something to take with me, and I certainly don't have the time to go run out and grab something. So
Yeah. And
nor
it's
do I.
like time gets tight.
Mhm.
time gets
Yeah,
time gets tight, and the next thing you know, you're running out the door. You're like, oh, I didn't get any lunch. Oh
yeah,
man, what should I get today?
for
Oh well,
sure.
clear protein it is. But like me, what I do is, if I notice I forgot my lunch, I'll be driving, and I'm the king of stopping at a Publix or Harris Teeter or wherever a grocery store is,
Yeah,
and I'll grab like 3 pounds of strawberries.
nice.
Like 3 cartons of strawberries, and sometimes I'll either rinse them or I just won't. And Amanda thinks it's crazy. I eat the whole thing with the top and all.
Oh, you do?
I eat the whole thing, but I think about it to myself, and I had somebody say something to me one time, and they're like, all the pesticides and this, that, and the third on this, that, and that, and I'm like, or I could have stopped at McDonald's. I think the strawberry option
Yeah.
was my better out. You know what I mean? And I tell people, which I don't ever knock people stopping and get what they want to get, but I'm
Yeah.
like, when I pick an option, it's like, okay, I can stop at Chick-fil-A or Chipotle or something like that and get that. Or I can just get 3 pounds of strawberries and eat three
Totally.
pounds of strawberries. I'll feel a lot better on my stomach at the end of the day,
Yeah,
and
it's
it'll
so
keep me
true.
full for a long time. Yeah. So,
So the next time you stop and get strawberries, um, I had a group of girlfriends like show me this, like, I don't know, it's been within the past year, but they, that chocolate hummus, which sounds absolutely disgusting, but
no, I've
there's
never heard of
like
it.
hummus, but it has cocoa powder or something in it, but it tastes like
Wow.
a brownie, but it's actually
Hummus.
hummus. And
Huh.
they buy that with the strawberries. And so it's like this guilt-free
Yeah.
treat, because it's actually just hummus.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to
There
check
you
it
go.
out. Chocolate hummus. That's
Yeah, I
good.
know. I always looked at it and I was like, that's disgusting. And then I think they had it on some girls' getaway thing, and so they were all just like obsessed with it. And I'm like, well, I mean, I have
Yeah.
to try it. And then I think I bought it like the very next week, because I was like, that is
Yeah.
so good, and then I don't have to feel
Yeah.
guilty.
Yep. I
So
like fondue strawberries anyway, so
there
I
you
definitely
go.
get down with
Now
that.
you got
I
a
get down with
healthy.
that.
Yep,
And
you got a healthy.
I'm not weird about like what it is. Like it's like, okay, what does it taste like? If it
Yeah,
tastes good, I'll try it. Like I'm not like, oh, chickpeas and chocolate. Like no.
exactly. I
I'm
know
just
the
like, oh,
thought of it is a little bit, well, that's what originally was like. I was like, that's disgusting. But then when I tried it, I'm like, nope, we're good. That's super,
yep,
super good.
that win. That's a winner. That's a
Yeah.
winner right there.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So tell me, I now you have Uniservice is your handyman business, right?
Yes.
So I want
Yep.
to let's kind of share the story behind your businesses
Okay.
individually, so that we
Okay.
can kind of dig in a little bit deeper. So I know your businesses are younger; they're 2 years old and 3 years old. So
hmm
how old is Uniservice?
Uniservice about 2 to 3 years old. So I
Okay.
started that. Yep. And then Unlock Potentials, roughly. They're both within that 2 to 3 year
Okay.
range. So if you want me to start with
Yeah.
Uniservice,
Yeah.
the way yeah, that the way that one came about is I partnered when I first moved here from Michigan. Obviously lived in Columbia first, moved to Charleston. Fast forward, boop boop boop. A
Yep.
whole nother story down the line. I can drag you into that, but
Yep.
I got here. I was working at Coca-Cola. My customer service and just willingness to get things done has always been like a skill set of mine.
Hmm.
And I bought half of a moving company, um, named Westweight Moving, and I was partnering. Well, that partnership fell through. It just we didn't see eye to eye, which is
Hmm.
completely understandable, which happens,
Yeah.
And so on the outs of that, I was mounting TVs. So we go on moves, and customers be like, "Hey, do you guys mount TVs?" And we didn't offer that as a service. Well, I was like, "Of course, yeah, I can do that all day." So I started mounting TVs, and then the next thing you know, I was like, "Okay." I can just about touch up anything. I can fix your trim. I can do this. I started adding little things in,
Hmm.
and in that transition out, because obviously I was annulling that partnership. In that transition out, Amanda was working at a property management company, and she didn't hate it, but it was just getting to the point to where it was like it wasn't working for her schedule. We had a newborn. We had Kobe. Well, Kobe was between 1 and 2, which is still considered newborn to me, but
Hmm.
because he's still like it's still controlling our lives at that point.
Yeah.
So it was like things was happening at daycare. Then he was having to come home because he'd have diarrhea. Excuse my language, but it's
No, you're
true. It's
good.
the truth.
That happens.
And so she would have to leave work because I would be out in, say, Columbia working, doing deliveries for the moving company or on a move or helping out doing that. And it got to the point where she was struggling there. So I finally just told her, I said, all right, well, I'm gonna start more so like a handyman service or a handyman business to create some revenue. I'm on the outs of this business. I don't want to go to a regular job and lose my time with,
Yeah.
our son and you. So do you trust me? And she looked at me crazy, like, trust you for what? And she knew I was up to something. This is the risk taker part that we
Yeah.
were talking about. What are you up to? I said, quit your job. And she says, quit my job. I said, yeah, quit your job because all this stuff that I have in my head that I want to make a business,
Hmm.
um, this is what I want to do. And she was like, okay, well, TV mounts ain't going to be able to make us sufficient enough money to maintain everything. And I was like, I
Right.
mean, if I love to do it, it could eventually, but let's just do a bunch of different stuff. And then next thing you know, a guy I work with, Donnie, I met him probably about 4 or 5 years ago. We were in the fitness together. He had DHW Unlimited. He was like, dude, let's partner together and let's take on this stuff together. And Amanda, you just handle all of our admin.
Hmm.
We'll go out, start marketing the jobs, doing this, doing little things, and you just when these clients come through, then you then take over and call them, get them on the schedule, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, next thing you know, this all happened in October of 2023. Amanda quit her job in October or November of 2023. And then by February of 2024, Uniservice was full up and running. And we had already brought in like 35 clients.
Hmm.
So it happened really fast.
Hmm.
And then so we right off get go, we jumped into it and getting a CRM to organize our clientele
Yep.
because I don't think people realize how important that $200-300 a month for a software is to maintain your clients.
Yeah. Huge.
And people are like, oh, well, you can just save your money and do this. And I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, it has to be like this. Like, if it's
Important.
not like this, it'll be too much paperwork everywhere. We can keep everything inside of a database. And then that's when Uniservice formed. And I started marketing, talking on Nextdoor. And within 6 months, we had 164 favorites on Next. Well, I wouldn't say 164. That's what we have now. We had like 100 and 10 favorites on
Mhm.
Nextdoor, just became a neighborhood favorite, got voted the neighborhood favorite. And it was simply not because we like were crazy good at what we were doing. It was just our process, our procedures, and our quality of work is good. You
Mhm.
know, it was just more so because you can't, I tell people you can always go to be the best, but there's always somebody better. And then when
Right.
you get to the top, it's really lonely up there. So it's like, I'm not going to stand up like, oh, we're the best in the world. Like, there's things that people do better than us. But the whole goal is like, okay, if there's somebody that does it better than us, let's just partner with them. And that's why it's
Mhm.
called Uniservice, because now we can do anything. And if we don't know how to do it, we know somebody in our network who
Yeah,
does. And that way
it's
we
so
can
good.
come in on a massive job that would usually take a person a week or 2 weeks to complete or a month to complete. And we can complete it within 24 hours to 72 hours. It's like
Yeah.
one of our thresholds, but sometimes they take a week, but it just depends on how much stuff there is. But that's how
Mhm.
Uniservice was formed.
It's so smart.
So,
It's almost a little bit like the
mm.
general contractor of handyman.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the goal. I saw so many bad, like I saw people getting their deposits stolen because they sent out a Venmo, or
Yeah,
going to having these people come out, or having all these, oh, these contractors never showed up, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm just like, you
right,
know what? And so and like now we're partnered with a guy named Prince who owns Haystack, who has a database where he basically is trying to do the same thing, but he owns the database. So
right.
yeah, so that's
Good.
where that kind of started. So.
Super smart.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit. Okay, so with Uniservice,
Mm-hmm.
um, how are you? How do you go about vetting out those that you're gonna
That
consider
I'm
to be partners with you in some of these projects that you're working on?
Oh, first things first, you have to you got to have a business license and you have to have insurance. There's no way I'm sending anybody in a house in Charleston. These houses have skyrocketed and the people here are very, very close knit. And it's like
Hmm.
I'm not sending anybody untrustworthy. So we vet them in by one, we either meet them out for lunch, meet them on a call, have a Zoom with them, and then after that, you must provide your business license, your general liability of insurance, any type of certifications, bonds, or any of that storage you
Yeah,
have that we're trying to utilize. And then after we get through that process, then we have you fill out the W-9, and up until then, and then have you go quote a job with us, and then if we think you're valid, or and also we go on site with
hmm,
you for one of their jobs. Like
right.
has nothing to do with us. Like I will say, hey, what are you guys doing today? And they'll be like, oh, we're out here at this house. I'll say, oh, what's the address? Drive right out there and I'll pull up on site and see what type of work they do.
Yeah.
And that way I can know what type of quality they're going to be providing in our client's house because we do have a high standard. You
Hmm.
know, the goal is to come in and make it seem like we weren't ever there.
Yeah. That's
And, you
awesome.
know, and so that's how we vet everybody in. And so far it's worked well. And I'd be a
Mhm.
liar if I say it all went perfect. You know, I'd be a complete
Yeah.
liar if I'd say
I
everything
mean,
went perfect.
right. It's an unrealistic goal, right? It's really
Yeah.
not about being perfect. It's about actually how you handle things when something isn't perfect. Like how do
Yep.
you then what? Then
Yep.
that's really where the beauty comes in.
Yep. We honestly just had a client like that going through a divorce, had movers in there, had a real estate agent in there. We were the contractors. Some
Yeah.
touch ups didn't look up to their par. They didn't think something was pressure washed, even though it was. And we had to explain, like, look, 60% of the time, touch ups do not look
Yeah.
as perfect as the
You're
original
right.
paint. It never, it like, that's like 60% of the time there's a complaint on a touch up. And I
Yeah.
was like, and that's only because I stand firm on that. I've been there. You know,
Yeah.
you can even
Same.
look it up on YouTube and any contractor will tell you, unless you paint that whole wall,
Yep.
if it's over a couple years old, you will see. Like it's like I tell people, use the analogy of a brand new car.
Hmm.
That car's shiny. Okay, you get in a little fender bender, and they replace your fender and they paint it brand new, and then put it on your car. It looks completely different. And it looks the same, but you can definitely tell it's different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I tell people is like it was with paint. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of like that. We've definitely had a job like that, but like the way we handle it is I get right there out front and center. You know,
Hmm.
I'm right there. I was at a job. I usually will get there like bright and early in the morning, and it's like 6 a.m. So the clients are like, but I'm like, I want to get in front of any problem,
Yeah.
which they're not often, but when they are, 98% of the time, it's how you handle it. Like if you
Yeah.
handle it with professionalism, you stand in front of your problem, you go there, you try to solve the issue at hand, and
Mhm.
then sometimes, unfortunately, like there's times you can't solve the client's problems. Their expectations are unrealistic
Yeah.
sometimes, and that happens. And it's in indie industry. It's in, I know in your case, in insurance. It's
Yep.
in, handyman. It's in sales. Like you'll have somebody call and they'll be like, "I need this to happen," and you're like, "There's no way
Mm-hmm.
that's going to happen. I can do my best and get it here, but here is like unrealistic. Like it's not going to
Exactly.
work. That's not how it works,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, overall, like I said, we got a whole 5-star rating on Google, so it's like I stand on that, and I'm proud of that. So
It's good. You should be proud of that.
mhm.
It is. We
Yeah,
are the same, and it's something that we work really hard for. And so,
yeah,
yeah. And when you're engaged in doing the best you can do, like those 5-star reviews mean the world. So,
yeah,
um, awesome. I love that, and I love the heart behind
mhm,
it. A couple of
yeah,
things I wrote down as you were speaking, and we talked a little bit about being risk takers before we
yeah,
hit record, and
uh-huh,
I can relate because I am as well. And
mhm,
I love that you gave yourself no plan B because I was the same when I started my business. I started
yeah,
from zero and no plan
mhm,
B, and I feel like it just puts you in a different headspace. Like
yeah,
you don't have that plan B never enters your brain because you don't have one. You just have to
yeah,
make whatever is in front of you work. And I think there's
yep,
a beauty to that. And it's also really refining
yeah.
to have no plan B because you just have to go through whatever is hard that's right in front of your face.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like it, and with us being risk takers, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush, It's like I have no other option. There's no safety net. I don't have anything to fall back on.
yep.
So it's like now your back's like diamonds are formed under extreme pressure.
Yes.
Put your back against the wall, and I tell everybody, if you put your back against the wall with nothing to have, I promise you'll figure it out.
It's true.
Your DNA is just set to figure it out. Just most people don't like to be pushed against the wall,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Like
Mhm.
just do it scared. Right.
Do it scared.
Yep.
Both sides of the story is hard. You gotta pick
Yeah,
one.
exactly. Well, and regret to me sounds like way more torture than just doing the hard thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
So then share a little bit about unlocked potential. What do you do in that business?
In unlock potential, I basically take like I know this is pretty standard, is what I always say. Like it's like busy individuals, but I feel like more of my niche is like busy individuals with kids and children.
Mm-hmm.
Like get in shape based off still eating what they don't think they can eat, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Like
Yep.
people like, oh, I don't want burgers, or I cut this out, or I'm cutting out bread, or I'm cutting out this, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you need carbs to function. That's why you're tired.
Yeah.
That's your energy source. And like so I take things like that and I help them lose weight and get in shape and get the bodies that they want to work towards. And like I said, the goal is to work with me for 3 months and then go off on your own. I don't want to ever have a client that's with me for years and years and years and continuing to pay me for a service that I know they can do on their own. The goal
Right.
is to give you the formula, give you the roadmap, and then guide you for the rest of your life. And all I care about is the referral after I help you. Like
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I want to know that because none of it makes sense if I can't help you. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel, and like every single client I've had has gotten results. Reason being, I keep it simple. I don't overcomplicate it. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually took on my first teenage client. He's 15 years old and tore his meniscus in his left knee, and he's been working with me like 6 weeks, and he's already down like 14 pounds.
Awesome.
Everybody's like, what do you got him taking? What are you doing? I said, I literally just tracked what his metabolic or basal metabolic rate is, how
Yep.
much calories he's burning
Mm-hmm.
per day to function, and then I tracked how his meals are. I picked his meals for him. I said, here you go, try this. And he's dropped weight, and I help him strength train 3 days a week. And I usually don't train in person, but his mom was local and they reached out to me, and I was like, you know what? I've never done I've done some in-person training, but like
Mm-hmm.
everything I do is literally online. So
Okay.
I was like, this is a change for me. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. And
Yeah.
I'm getting results from it. So that's like at the end of the day, it's not that I don't know what I'm talking about. So like now I stand on that. So that's kind
Yeah.
of what I do in that business. And I'm actually working on the website now to get It's called the potential portal. What I want to create with this potential portal is a portal where you can go and you can book a fitness retreat. And instead of like people, when they hear fitness retreat, they're thinking this guy's going to have me doing burpees on the beach. No, it's going to be like cool excursions that get your heart rate up, that keeps you like in zone 2.
Yeah,
That way you can continue to burn body fat, but you're having fun with the collective group of people.
totally.
So, and all your excursion, just like when you go on a cruise,
Mhm.
everything's planned out. Like this
Yeah,
fitness retreat will be okay, we may go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and all the excursions are planned. Now, if you want to go to them, that's up to you. It's all included in your cost,
yeah.
and so that's going to be one of the features. And then having like 12-week plans, 8-week plans,
Hmm.
nutrition plans, and then, one-on-one coaching with me. That's going to be like a portal where people can go to basically help themselves become better. And if it's
Hmm.
rather get an ebook that's on there, I'm gonna try to have some free ebooks on there that's just
Right.
like I got a confidence journal,
Hmm.
where it's like 30 days of self-guided confidence journal,
Yep.
just stuff like that to get people motivated and pushed. And like I hate saying motivated because motivation don't last, but it's like you can be motivated one day and completely down in the dumps the next day. But it's like
Yeah.
give them the formula of something. Like you got to build that dopamine to keep you going. It's like a snowball effect, you
Right.
know?
Like building the fire inside of them instead of building the fire underneath them. Those
Yeah,
are
yeah,
two different things. So you're trying to
a
build
hundred.
the fire inside.
Exactly. And that way, once, like I said, after 30 days of like anybody working with me for 30 days, I tell them straight up, I said, 30 days, you'll see a difference. And then that right there alone will push you right through those last 2 months
Totally.
alone.
Yeah.
And I promise, and that's my guarantee to people. It's like, follow exactly what I tell you to do in the first 30 days. You'll start seeing results. And I
Hmm.
promise you, you'll start pushing yourself a little bit harder. And it's not that I don't make people go out there and tear themselves apart and
Yeah.
do a bunch of miles. Like, walk,
Yeah.
simply walk.
Yeah.
Walking is the same as running, just at a slower pace.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, mhm.
I'm I know I told you this before we hit record, but I'm doing 75 hard right now. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
and like I know that that's known for being like so intense. And I mean, I guess certain to a degree kind of.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really actually look at it as intense. Like I know I just wake up and do my normal morning workout and then all
yeah,
I do, I mean, I already read, so we're at,
yeah,
I already drink a decent amount of water. I'm just adding a gallon, but that's actually not hard for me to get through in a day.
yeah,
I'm usually done by 2 in the afternoon
yeah.
with a gallon.
Hmm.
Um, and so like, okay, you have to take a progress picture. I don't really even care. Like I just literally when my coffee's brewing in the morning, I just like go take a quick picture.
Yep,
It's just a picture. It takes
yeah,
seconds to just hit a,
yep,
you know.
yep,
Um, but what I do for my second workout is I just go walk outside. Like I'm
yeah,
like I don't, I'm also like not trying to like hurt myself in 75 days, but creating disciplines and like the mental fortitude to stick to something that's difficult.
yeah,
But yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, so I walk a lot and
yeah.
I love walking. It's such a great, yeah, it's good.
It's good all around for everything. And like 75 hard, what I tell people all the time when they're doing it is like I give people kudos because it's like you said, it's not hard, it's just discipline. And
Yeah.
people don't like you would be surprised how many people or successful people that you think have discipline that don't have it.
Yeah. Yes.
What they did is they got really smart, and what we talked about earlier is they leverage everything that they don't like and they
Hmm.
do it that way, but then they still lack discipline within themselves.
Yes.
And it's like you can look at somebody and be like, holy crap, I thought, even though you're successful, you like I used to always say, you can't run a business if you don't do 75 hard, but that's not true. Some people just lack discipline in a different way.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can lack discipline and just the willing and wantingness to do it. Like I'm not doing this because I am successful. Why do I need to do it?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, like it's like you got to pick your choices, and everybody don't have that same wire in their brain of what they want to make something, be disciplined about. And
Yeah.
it usually starts like the biggest thing I've noticed, especially when it comes to like growth and success, is the first thing people let go is their personal goals for themselves, like their
Yeah.
health. And it's
Yes.
like then I would never want, I hate when I see people let themselves become a part where it's like, okay, if I had this, I tell people, if you had to save your family, right?
Hmm.
Like gets deep. Like if you had to save your family, could you physically, mentally, and emotionally do it?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if I had to, no, I need to know, can you? Like, no,
Yes.
if I had to,
Yeah.
could you? I physically believe you need to know that question because you don't want to be put in that situation where you're questioning if you could
Yeah.
when it happens. You want to be prepared. And that's like, I tell people that starts with your health, your mindset,
Yeah.
like the disciplinedness, and obviously adrenaline plays a massive role. But if
Right.
your discipline's there, once your adrenaline hits, you're going to be a little bit more elevated at that point.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I agree. And you are correct. I know early on, so my agency will be 11 in July. So just a couple.
oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
They got the little clapping.
And I would say, I'm trying to think what year, you know, year, so like 5 or 6 years ago, six
Mhm. Yeah.
is, I mean, I really learned that the hard way. Like the agency was seeing a lot of success and growth. And
Hmm.
I got to a point where like I did not take care of myself. And it was actually more so of like not having the skill sets yet to know how to like
Yeah.
still prioritize really good self-care in a
Hmm.
time of like explosive growth where I hate the word balance. Like it's actually one of my like it's a swear word to me.
Yeah.
I think that if for anything to grow, like for anything to grow and move forward, just like in walking, in order for you to move forward in walking, right, you have to pick up one foot and put it in front of the other. So you are inherently unbalanced. I don't think, unless you're going to stay
Yeah.
stagnant in life, that balance is actually like a thing.
Yes.
So
100%.
that said, I didn't know how to like, I didn't know how to manage the explosive growth in business
Yeah.
and still hold on to my routines that I've had in the past with care, or I didn't really realize how important they were for me to hold on to.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
so, it took me a little bit to realize, like, oh crap, like I need to really like get my stuff in order here. And
Yeah.
so it's been, I'd say for me, like morning routines and like that type of thing has always been really important. But over the probably last 3 to 4 years is when I've really
Yeah.
just been like, man, I really need to work on like self leadership and
Yeah.
discipline in a way because I don't have somebody telling me what to do. And so self
Hmm.
leadership is exponentially more important when you don't have anybody else telling you what to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, like that's part of 75 Hard. It's like a self leadership, it's discipline, it's living within a really healthy framework.
Hmm.
And, you know, yeah, I just think that it's really important. And same as you, it blows my mind how many people have, don't realize how self leadership is so much more important than we realize because our
Yeah.
businesses will only ever grow to the edge in which we grow ourselves. Your business,
Hmm.
my business, is not going to outgrow our growth.
Yeah.
So if you
100%.
aren't highly engaged and like becoming the next best version of yourself, you're
Hmm.
stunting your business.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
It's just like the correlation is you can't like uncouple those things from each other.
No, you gotta continuously like educate yourself and put yourself in uncomfortable positions and it like people are so like you gotta be uncomfortable and I know a lot of people say get comfortable with being uncomfortable but it's like really true
Yeah.
like if you walk in a room where you feel like you're comfortable and you know everything and people are gonna be like oh hey get out of that room and go to a different one
Yeah.
not because you're not supposed to be in that room simply because the only way to grow is to put yourself at the edge and make yourself feel really uncomfortable so you can continue to grow and adapt
Yeah.
like, and
Totally.
that's like, and so I do got a question for you. What makes you wake up at 3 in the morning? Because then I'll explain to you why I wake up at 3 in the morning. Let's see if
I was
it's the
just going to
same. I'm
ask you,
curious.
that was my next question. So you read my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get up at 4:10.
Uh huh.
And I'm going to ask you that, but then my next question is going to be your morning routine. So
Okay.
this is what I'm going to be sharing with you as my morning routine. So I
Okay.
up at 4:10, and the reason for the 10 is because I know that I have to leave my house at 4:30, and I leave
Uh huh.
myself zero buffer room. So like I do not
Okay.
hit snooze or anything
Yeah.
like that. I know when 4:10 hits, like my feet better hit the ground because I really
Yeah.
only have 20 minutes to get myself out the door, and I have to make my protein coffee. I need to like get changed. I need to brush my teeth. I need to make my,
Yeah.
I bring, oh gosh, I put elements, so electrolytes in
Yeah. Yeah.
my giant
Yeah.
mug of
That's perfect.
water,
That's perfect.
and then fly out the door because I kickbox at 5 a.m. So
Uh-oh, watch out.
yeah, right. Get to kickboxing. You have to be early because otherwise someone's going to take my bag, and I have
Yeah.
a bag that I have to, I have my spot. So
Yeah.
kickbox, that's 45 minutes. Get home 6 usually.
Yeah.
Little tiny after, and then I read for just a little bit, like half an hour.
Yeah.
And then I journal. I do a devotional,
Hmm.
and I just kind of review like the sequence of the day, even though I already have it planned from Sunday. So I know that it's coordinated, right? It's already
Hmm.
coordinated for me. But then I just
Yeah.
will be like, okay, what's this day
Yep.
looking like? And then after that, I get ready.
Go
I
about your
don't
day.
have appointments in the agency until 9 a.m. So I have,
Yeah.
I mean, I have 5 hours of my day
Yeah.
in before I even take appointments.
That's cool. See, and that's good. It's like, and the way I could say my routine, I think that's an awesome routine because it's like that's your time to yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like those, and that's what I said. Everybody's like, how do you wake up so early? Why do you wake up? Because even when I wake up late, if I do wake up late, it's still like 5 a.m.,
Right.
5:30.
So yeah.
But it's like for the majority of the time, my alarm goes off at 3:30, and I know I have until 4:05 to get out the door and go on my morning walk. Well, I have between 3:30 and 4:05 to go on my morning walk. So I usually get up like 3:10, 3:30ish, and I go on my morning walk. Usually it's like 10 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
then by the time 4:05 hits, I do MGAs, which is money generating activities, which is like either reaching out to clients that reached out to me the day before or making a post on social media or make responding to anybody that messaged me on my because people be up late, so people will message me at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
and I'll hit them right back at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, why were you up so early? I was like, why were you up so late?
Yeah. Right.
Two different, and then after that, usually I'll do that from like 4:05 to 5. And then that's when usually Amanda and Kobe's getting up. So then I start hanging with the family, and my nephew and my niece, they wake up and get everything rocking and rolling. Then by 6:45, we're out the door,
Mm-hmm.
and then get to the gym by 8. Go to the gym with 8. Kobe goes to the gym daycare. And then by the time we get back home, roughly around 10:30, 11, that's when we start. By that time, people started responding back to the things that I did for those money generating activities
Yeah.
at between 4 and 5, 5:30, and they start responding. So then now I'm like, okay, well, I sit down during that time too and figure out what my day is, if we have any jobs I have to be on. And then after that gym session, then I can pull up on any jobs that we had. This is the joy of it, is when we come back, Amanda reaches out to all those clients. Like
Mm-hmm.
as these clients are responding, she has access to everything I do. So she'll be like, oh, this lady hit us up on Nextdoor, and I'm going to call her and get her set up for an on-site estimate. Oh, this client did this. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to her and get her set up for a Zoom call. And so that part is off my hands at that point. Now I just got to look at my damn, like, okay, what job do I have to be on? Do I have to meet these guys here? What time do I have to be here? Do I have this meeting here? We're meeting with a new contractor that we're onboarding tomorrow, for example. Like, okay, that's on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so by that time, all of my activities that I did between that 4 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. is now starting to reach back out. And then I can just smoothly roll into my day.
Yeah.
And if there's any clients that I need to call back after these jobs are completed, Amanda does all that. She calls them, talks to them, gets payment of any job that's completed, ask how the guys did, get the reviews in, and boom. And it's like a smooth little process, but there's hiccups in it sometimes. But the reason I get up so early is because, like I tell people, the best way I can put it is that when you wake up that early, the world is completely still.
Oh my gosh, it's so quiet. Yes.
It's ridiculously quiet, and it's like, even though your head's like running like a million miles an hour because there's a lot to do in the day, it's like you can at least focus. Like you can at least be like, okay, what's at hand? The task at hand. This is my schedule. Okay, I need to do this. I need to get out the door. Okay, boom. And usually during that time, I'll listen to like a podcast. My biggest ones is usually I listen to Gary Vee a lot. I listen to Eric Thomas a lot.
Yeah.
And like Earn Your Leisure. I listen to that one a lot. So I listen to a couple of those. I've been just listening to the what's his name? His last name's Hope. What's his first name? But I just started listening. He talks about wealth and money and
Mhm.
just like different ways like people don't understand. Like when I was younger, my parents told me like, oh, like I guess this is rolling to a different question, but
Yeah.
anywho, but anyway, with the podcast, that's just how my morning. I'll wait for that for a different
Yeah.
question. But
Yeah.
I listen to my podcast like instead of like reading or sitting down and reading, I listen to the podcast when I'm walking
Mhm.
and throughout my money generating activities, and
Yeah.
then I go usually, and then if my day shifts a little bit and I do have to be on jobs or something, or help out or stop by, drop off food or water to some of the guys, or simply just be there with the client.
Hmm.
I then go to the gym at 4 a.m. So my money generate activities move up to instead of walking, I do the money generate activities. Then I go to the gym at 4, do my walking so I can maneuver it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's second options, but
Yeah.
that's how my morning usually starts off. So it's just super quiet, super still, gives me time to think and prepare today, even though it's already scheduled.
Yeah.
So
So good. And you're
mhm.
right. Like that quiet is a different kind of quiet. So you can
Yeah,
actually like your head's in just a whole different space. So
hmm
yeah, I agree 100%.
yeah,
So tell me a little bit. Well, you mentioned family and upbringing. So let's
yeah,
chat a little bit about that. So I don't know about you, but for me, I come from a family. So both my parents were employees. My dad worked for the state, and then my mom was a teacher.
yeah,
And so I came from very like low conflict, low risk, like
yeah,
very financially conservative. So like they rubbed nickels together like crazy.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
and so I would almost say almost a little bit of a fear of money,
yeah,
and so I've had to work through that just from a mindset standpoint growing up in a
hmm
family that had like um a like a fear of money.
yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me a little bit about how your childhood and that growing up has impacted you as a business owner.
Um, I mean, well, with my family growing up, like my mom was a nurse at the hospital. I'm from Flint, Michigan, so it was like there wasn't much there. It was like
Mm-hmm.
as you grew up, it was like either you were out in the streets getting in trouble or you move away, And like when I was younger, I stayed there up until I was 30 and I just didn't see any growth. But like my actual childhood, my parents really didn't like teach us like financial responsibility. They just taught us work, which
Right.
was like, oh, work, work, work hard and you make money, go to school, go to college, get a good job. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, that's fine. But neither one of you went to college,
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's your standard to me, but neither one of you went to college. So that's what I did. I went to University of Michigan. I got my degree from
Nice.
University of Michigan. And like at that point I was like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
But during my childhood, like the way it made me for business now is that they didn't let me know like putting the little bit away over time.
Yeah.
That's how you build your generational wealth. And some people, we were really good at building, like I said this on my Facebook the other day, like we were really good at building culture in a community,
Yeah.
but we weren't really good at building commerce.
Yeah.
So they didn't, you know what I mean? So they
Yeah.
didn't teach
Yeah.
me the commerce aspect of it. It was like, okay, I was always taught like, don't get a mortgage because now you've got a loan in your name and it's bad debt, or don't get a credit card because it's bad debt. And it's like, now that I'm older in my business, I'm like, that stuff is all the stuff you want.
Yeah.
That is the stuff you want. Like you want to be, because the only thing that's growing is if you own a home or own a home in a specific spot, like it's growing as an asset. Like that's an
Mm-hmm.
asset, not a liability.
Yep.
But it's like at the same time, they're like, okay, you need a car. If you can get an auto loan, I'm like, that's a liability now. So the way I look
Yeah.
at things now is completely different as a kid that I was taught. And I'm like, so now I put that on, like, I strive on that with like making sure I put ourselves in that position. Like,
Mhm.
okay, we do need a life insurance policy, which my dad, he did do that well. He did do the life insurance
Good.
thing really well, but he don't talk about it. And that's the problem. I feel like
Yeah.
I ran into, like your parents don't talk about that stuff. And
Yeah.
I feel like that should have been a common thing we sit down and discuss is finances, bank accounts, money,
Yeah.
where it's going, how it works, and I had to learn about credit on my own. And it was when I was in a crappy position after student loans and credit card
Yeah.
debts. And then it all hit me and I'm like, things are getting, going in default and this and that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know about this. Then student loans are taking money from me every month. And I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm working every day paying these student loans and balances are still going up. So
Yeah.
like now as a business owner, I'm like, all right, so the real gateway to a business is trading your time for money. So like people get caught up in like working in a job every single day and it's like, okay, like you said earlier, how can I make more money and be have more time? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so now you're trying to figure out now I'm trying to figure out, okay, what are the tasks that I can do that I can push off, still make the money, still go over here and do what I'm best at, but as
Yeah.
well as be able to make the money to be able to put money away and then put it away in little increments at a time.
Yeah.
Put it in my 529 plan for Kobe or in a life insurance policy and just start building generational wealth things that I wasn't taught as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's, and like I just had a conversation with a buddy of mine. He was like, he was telling me about like how his family has generations of wealth. And it's like, the thing is, your family just started a lot early. They started, you know, 85 years before I found out about it. So
Yeah.
like that plays a major role. And then I found out just recently about moving it over from one generation to another, just transferring it. So
Yes.
then you wonder why, like, I was talking to my brother, he was like, some people just have it good and this and that. And I'm like, it's not necessarily that they have it good. They were just taught it a lot sooner than we were. So
Yeah.
now it's our time as adults to make that. And the thing is, most people are too afraid to say, I'm going to do this now so the rest of our family and the rest of the kids can have to
Yeah.
reap this reward.
Yeah.
But people are way too selfish in your family to be like, I'm not going to put $200 a month away to have somebody else be able to take advantage of it. And
Right.
that's what I had to learn from like my family at a young age to like come here and be like, okay, I need to start doing these things now. And so that's what I learned when we started the business. And I sat down and talked to Amanda about it. And I was like, these are the ththings that need to happen. So instead of our son getting like gifts and stuff like that. People buy him toys that will never remember.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll send him a link to his 529 plan. Throw $5 in there. Throw $10 in there. It's going to continue to grow over time. And then when he goes to private school, that's what it's going to be used for. Stuff like that. If we want him to go to a Montessori school or certain stuff, like that's what
Yeah.
it's used for.
Yeah.
So So that's how I implement that in my business for growth is like being able to leverage your financial responsibility to be able to grow your business. And like most people don't realize, like if you get stuck in the rat race chasing money, you'll never grow. You'll never have enough money.
Well, and you won't be happy either. It's not a
Mm-mm.
fulfilling thing, and it's a shallow why. So if you have a bigger, it's
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to a lot of those things. Like we didn't have like my parents did rub nickels together. Now, my parents were amazing parents and we had a really good, like close knit family. But they rubbed nickels together and they also never talked about money. And it was always a little bit of like, I ran into, I used to really run away from the financials within my business. And it was 2019. I should share this program with you. I went through Goldman Sachs, has a 10,000 small businesses program. It's funded by a grant. And it was actually, I think Warren Buffett was one of the founders of this. And it is phenomenal. It's like, I think it's 3 months long. It's about 10 to 15 hours a week. But it's all like, and they actually, if you're part of the national cohort, which I was, they actually fly you out. It's either to Boston or New York, depending on where you're out of, like where the national cohort is out of.
Yeah.
But anyway, they fly you out, like they pay for you to fly, they pay for your housing, food, like it's but you have to show up and do the work, and they will hold you accountable.
100%.
And they did one of the modules was on financials, and I was like terrified. Like I had my financials, but I don't do our finances, so I can decision make off of them, and I do understand them, but I don't do them. And I have found that I needed to actually space myself from them because it takes my edge off. Like I start I start decision making out of a different headspace that doesn't work. But when I was at Goldman Sachs, one of the first things they said when they introduced the financial unit was, okay, you guys are all entrepreneurs, you're all CEOs in here. So I just want you guys to know that the typical entrepreneur or CEO typically puts their head in the sand when it comes from their numbers, and they are known to run away from it. So we are not here to try to turn you into CFOs or financial
Yeah.
people, but we want you to understand the basics enough to be able to look at a profit and loss statement and decision make and understand like what you're looking at, so you can foresee maybe what's around the next corner or what you need to do next to set your business up to succeed. And that was like the best relief I remember. Like, it was almost like a physical, like, you mean I'm not a fraud because
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't understand every single profit and loss statement that I look at. It was one of the best experiences
Yeah.
that I've had. So, but
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
awesome because like you said, most people when they hear finances, like I remember growing up, like they always told me like don't ask people about their financial, like
yeah,
it makes people uncomfortable. You know, I was a mover like throughout like college and stuff like that, and even now, like if I see somebody with something that I want and I strive for, I ask them, "What do you do for a living?
yeah,
How do you manage your finances?" And they look at me and I'm like, no, seriously, like, how am I supposed to know if I don't ask the people who have the things that
totally.
I want?
Yeah,
You know, and 90% of the time, like what I was told as a kid is like, don't ask people that's got something you want that because they'll get mad. And it's like, those people are the ones that's willing to tell you because the willingness to learn. Like
yeah,
they're glad that you're willing to, but
yeah,
it's the people that are balancing not having what they really look like they have that gets pissed off at you. Like
that is true.
somebody in the suit in a nice car, and really behind that, it's just all loans and he's struggling to keep afloat because he's
Totally.
trying to present this look that he is, and you ask him what he do is, what does it matter what I do? Like,
Yeah,
eh. But it's the people that actually have it and actually did it the right way. They're glad that you're asking because that's how our economy is going to continue to flow
totally.
correctly if people are educated on what they need to know. And
It's,
that's awesome. They got that class, and it
yeah,
helped you exactly. You know, you looked at it and was like, wow. You
yeah, it
know,
was amazing. I'll send you the information on it too in case you ever
okay,
look at it,
cool,
because it was really
cool.
good. It's worth it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, I have this, one of my favorite questions
Okay.
is, tell me what your favorite failure is. What failure have you had in life that you've gotten the most mileage out of, from like learning in a way that it's impacted you now in like
Mm-hmm.
a positive way?
All right, this is my deep dark secret it's not dark that everybody knows about that I basically got this set up with this podcast for was more so like me getting in trouble back in 2014. I got a felony
Okay.
because I was growing marijuana, and I also was caught with other substances in my house that I shouldn't have had. But just that story alone and realizing like I was only 23 years old. I was a kid in college, paying for my college, you know, out of my pocket, trying to figure out how to make ends meet, realizing that a job wasn't going to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
Still got student loans, but it's like I'm trying to figure it out, and that was my go-to.
Yeah.
And
Right.
after I got in trouble and I got my, like I said, I keep it 100%. Like my house got raided. My sister walks in and I'm like, this
Aw.
guy that nobody knows that I was doing what I was doing. And I'm just like in awe, and I'm just sitting there. And it was like, it was reality. Cause it's like, I'm in college. I got a full-time job, and I'm looking at it like they don't care.
No.
You break the law, you break the law.
Right.
And it's like, and at the end of the day, it's like, and that falls on a category now where it's like, in sense, sometimes it's about who you know
Yeah.
and not necessarily what you do, and it's
Yeah.
like, so I'm sitting there thinking like, I've definitely saw people do way worse than what I'm doing currently and not get in trouble. And I'm sitting there thinking, and here I am. I'm a kid in college. I have a full time job. I'm just trying to figure out how to play college. And yeah, was I doing breaking the law 100%? But there's people out there that I know doing way worse stuff, and
Yeah.
they've just got a slap on the wrist. And then I realized all the people who I thought was my friends wasn't my friends. So
Yeah.
then I felt completely empty. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, now what? And then
Right.
after I think I had to serve like 30 days, which I got lucky there. I just had a really good lawyer. Um,
Hmm.
After all that, I like sat there and I realized like, and then after where I really noticed everything was in jail itself for the 30 days is like only getting an hour to 2 hours out a day.
Hmm.
And then me asking for a pencil to write a letter, and they're like, all right, we'll get you one. I didn't get a pencil for 3 days. And it's like, wow, like I'm really basically like my life is controlled at this point. Like I
Yeah.
can't do what I want to do. My time is no longer my time. I'm
Hmm.
told when to eat, poop, pee, when I can walk. Like
Yeah.
this is crazy. And
Right.
that in my life, that right there in my life, like made me realize that like I'll never do like that's what I told the judge. She was like, "How do you feel?" I said, "I will never be in this position again,
Yeah.
ever." I said
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I said at the end of the day, my time was taken. My ability to do what I want to do is taken. And I wasn't respected at all. And it's not like I committed murder or anything like that or anything. I didn't harm anybody. I was literally a kid trying to figure out how to pay college.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was my choice. Which was it the right choice? Absolutely not. But after that, I'm like, I get home and I instantly move out the house that I was in. I move out like a week later. I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. I paid the rent for the rest of the year, and I said I'm leaving. You
Right.
know, I'm gonna cancel out my. I can't be here. Like this is just bad juju. I'm gonna move. Boom, boom, boom. And I cut everybody off that I kind of knew, and I was just like, you know, I'm gonna be a little bit standoffish. And then
Hmm.
I went back to the old moving company I was working with, and then that's how my business in Michigan came about, which was First Option Delivery, which was a
Hmm.
moving company. I started that in 2016, 2 years after I got in trouble with my felony, and then I graduated college in that same year. So it's like I rebounded well, you know. Like I was like
Hmm.
that trouble is not going to define me, you know. Like
No.
that's just a stepping stone. So
Hmm.
and that's how like after that all happened, I was just like, all right, here I am,
Yeah.
you know. So
Do you feel like when you made the decision to cut people off and cut move, do you feel like that was a huge like defining moment from your direction or no?
yeah, because I realized that you can't really trust anybody. Like
Hmm.
no matter what, like you can trust people, but you still got to keep people at a distance because then when something really happens and you really need people, the
Hmm.
ones closest to you will flee 100%. Like not
Hmm.
100%. You've had like 98%. You'll have that 2% of people that'll stick by your side. Because I do got some friends that
Yeah.
wrote it out would be a stuck by my side, but
Yeah.
98 like you think like everybody wants this like let's explain like related to social media. Everybody wants all these followers and all these people, but it's like
Mhm.
if you can't manage a room of 300 people, how do you think you're going to manage 3,000? If you can't manage 3,000, how are you going to manage 30,000? How are you going to
Right.
manage 3 million? Everybody wants all this publicity and all this influence. But it's like when reality hits, like those influence people aren't going to support you when things happen. When you
No.
hit rock bottom, they're going to scatter and go continue to live their lives and follow somebody else. And
Yeah.
you got to realize that that was my defining moment when I was like, okay, I'm going to lock in life because at the end of the day, no matter what I do,
Hmm.
good, bad, it don't matter. There's going to be somebody that's not going to be by my side. So this life is up to me. It's not up to
Right.
anybody else, you know? And that
Yeah.
was one of the things that like defined that. And I was like, wow, like it was, cause I've always been that person. Like I was always like, I want everybody to like me. I always had all
Hmm.
the friends and this and that. And then when I got to that point, I was like, dang, now everybody likes me. Everybody knows who I am. This is cool. Da 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 da. And
Yeah.
then when I really needed the support, it wasn't there. And I
Yeah.
was like, the only people that was supporting me was the people, like the only couple people, and even people that didn't even support me during the time, like that were like, "Yo, we
Yeah.
told you that was a
Ones
bad
that come in.
idea."
Yeah.
You know, that's why we stepped away, and I took it as like a personal hit when they would step away, and they were like, "Well, you know, you're involved in the wrong things," and it was just like
Hmm.
I had to take my chances. But now that you're out of those things and in this position, I'm back. Like I told you, I was a bad idea. You good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm
Yeah.
still friends with those people to this day, like because they were honest, you know.
Right.
I felt some type of way at the time, but it was more so I was
Yeah.
like, well, dang, they can't ride with me right now, like I'm at my highest. But they're like, you're at your highest mentally that you think, but you're actually at your lowest because
Yeah.
your ethics and your morals aren't there, you know. And
Right.
I was like,
There's
okay.
like integrity pain happening and they were calling it out.
Yeah, yeah, and they were
Yeah.
calling it out, and so like
Yeah.
after I was just like, you know what, you're right, you know, and that's what made me finally think about starting my business because like then that turned me into like this different person at work. So I walked into the moving company. I was graduating college. I looked at my boss and I said, I've been working for this company on and off for, you know, 6, 7 years due to me being in and out and doing this and that, you know, being young and wanting to party and go have fun. But at the same time, I was always loyal to the company. When I was there and I was needed, I was there all
Yeah.
day. And so I got my degree in marketing and I said, like, look, I'd like to be a part of your marketing team.
Hmm.
or I would like to start a marketing team. You know,
Yeah.
I've never got a bad review in 8 years, and this is at a moving company. I'm talking moving people's personal stuff from million
Yeah.
dollar houses to multi-million dollar houses to
Yep.
$10,000 houses. You know, never
Mhm.
got a bad review. And honestly, I was like, and I have this business plan that I built in college that I want to present to you. And he was
Mhm.
like, well, let's sit down and talk about it. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, but I would like to get a signed agreement that this is something we can make happen, that you'll allow me to make happen if we go over these plans. Because at this point now I'm giving you everything I worked hard for.
Mhm.
Well, so he didn't want to do it. So that was like icing on the cake with my trust. Cause I was
Yeah.
like, he just wants to see my ideas and then take my ideas on when
Yeah.
I've been front line and center for this business for years,
Mhm.
and I've done nothing but good business here, and you don't trust me with this after I just got my degree. You know what I've went through. You allowed me to come back after I went through that
Right.
because you knew the person I was, and I'm telling you this is what. But at the same time, he's got to protect his business. But where it really got crazy was where he hired another marketing person
Oh, jeez.
right while I was still working there, and I was like, okay, now,
Yeah.
like you could at least like let me be lead and bring her on and we work together. But like
Yeah.
this was no, you was still having me as a regular mover and she was out running our marketing and I wasn't cool with that.
Yeah.
And that's when like all my trust like in either like business or just support was just shattered. And I was like, all right,
Mhm.
I can do this shit myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did, you know, so
So your parents, instilled your go-to type or like do it. You can Okay. Excuse me. I am fumbling over your can-do attitude, and then it really pulled forward. Like when pressure is there. I mean, that's what pulls forward in you. Is like
yeah,
you're self-reliant and you have
yeah,
a really can-do attitude, and you'll figure it out,
yep.
which is huge,
Hmm.
really huge. And it I don't know. I mean, I think, can it be taught? I don't know. I mean, I
I
like to
just
say
think
yes.
that grit. Yeah, I want to say yes, but then I feel like that grit's just built in you. Like you can't have. You can try to. The thing
Yeah,
is, what happens is when you try to instill grit in people, they think you're like over forcing and pushing them,
yeah,
and it's like that's not it at all. Like
yeah,
grit is literally like I'm one of those people. Like throw. Excuse my language. Throw me in the effing mud. I'm gonna just
yeah,
say that, and
yeah,
I'll climb out. I'll figure out a way to get out. Throw me in the mud. Let me
totally.
figure it out. Like, and some people just like throw me in the mud. That's okay. I'm gonna lay out. I'm here. I
Right.
can't do it. You know,
Yeah.
some people don't have it, and it's nothing personal to the people that take it personal. But I'll tell people like you don't have it. Like, there's been
Mhm.
times where me and Amanda's had conversations, and I've got the grit. She's more standoffish and like,
Mhm.
yo, we need to look at this, and I'm like, nah, throw
Yeah.
me out there. I'll figure it out. I promise you, we'll make it happen. And
Yeah.
she's like, I don't know, this is a bad idea. I'm like, well, you never know. This may be the best decision we ever make if you
Yeah.
don't try it, you know. So you got to have that grit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it can be taught. I agree with you there. It's
Yeah.
hard to say that because then some people take it to offense, but it's like it can't be. It's
Yeah.
just you got it or you don't.
I I tend to think that. I mean, even just like I'm just kind of thinking of just people in general and just seeing how some have such an intrinsic drive and then some
Yeah,
people just don't have it, and this
yeah,
is this is kind of like one of those things. So,
yeah.
okay, I have a question for you. So,
Yeah.
given like what you went through in Michigan,
Hmm.
um, in my what it feels like for me is like crappy situation. I get why you were doing what you were doing.
Hmm.
And have you ever looked at the situation
Hmm.
and and even though there are like others that did worse things, you acknowledge like what you articulated was perfect. But
Hmm.
have you ever found a moment? Because I know for me, when I think of some of my really low times where I've done
Hmm.
things where I'm like, crap, that was,
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
and okay, have you ever looked back at it and almost had a little bit of appreciation because of the fuel that it gave you
Oh
to make
yeah.
such a course correct? And then the realization, like, I feel like what it did is it kind of put like gas on your internal fire to be like, I'm not going to be back. I'm not doing that. I'm
Hmm.
going to turn on my grit and my can do attitude double time. And I'm going to turn this into something that like you're not going to recognize
Yeah,
for yourself.
Absolutely 100%. Like that's why like when I go into some of these meetings or like I try to go into chamber of commerce meeting, I stand 10 toes on it. Like everybody's
Yeah.
like still to this day, if you were to look up my record, it's still on my record. Everybody's like, you should just take that off your record. I'm like, I don't care to. I don't
No,
care to go waste the money. Like it's
no.
not going to change the fact that if anybody wants to really look it up and find it, right?
Right.
If somebody, even if it's expunged or not, if somebody really wants to get deep and dirty and there's like a massive CEO and we're doing a multi-billion-dollar contract, they'll find it.
Yeah.
They'll find it. So it's like, it lit a fire in me to say, like, I'm going to stand on this
Hmm.
because it's a part of my life and I'm not afraid to tell it.
Yeah.
And when I went to this chamber of commerce meeting, they were like, just save that story so people in the don't look at you different. I was like, nah, well, this ain't the group for me because
Yeah.
like
No,
that's just
absolutely
like
not.
which like I understand. It's not like I just go out of like this is me, blah. But if they ask, I'm gonna tell them. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if I get personal with people, I'll tell them every time because that's a story that I stand behind,
Yep.
and it made me into who I am today. Like
Yeah.
if I didn't go through that, if I did like it's one of those things where it's like you're never sorry until you get caught.
Yeah.
And it was like I was out there doing these things, and I'm like, okay, I'm partying, I'm having fun, I'm doing this, I'm in possession of things I shouldn't be. I'm boom, 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 boom,
Right.
having fun, going to parties, buying alcohol, fine, normal college stuff. But it was like it came to a point to where it was like I would have kept doing it if I didn't get caught,
Right.
and then
Like,
I would have been down the line in the worst position. Like if you think
yeah.
about just like I think about people that get into that industry, and I've
Hmm.
always told people from where I'm from, like to get in that industry, you either go to jail for life or you die.
Yeah.
And that's harsh, but it's the truth. And it's like
Yeah.
those are the only options like from where I was from. And it's like when I went through that and I like went to jail and there was some guy that was there, he comes in, crazy story. Gotta tell this. He
Yeah.
comes in and his arm's bandaged up to the arm and he's I'm looking at him like, dang, what happened? He sits next to me. And I'm out watching TV and I look at him and he says, what ain't your name Curtis? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, first of all, how do you know me? Second of all, what happened to your arm? Just tell me what happened to your arm first, because this is crazy. You got a big huge. He's like, oh no, I got shot 3 times in my arm. You know, I was in an armed robbery, blah blah. Okay, first off, now I'm already sketched out because you know my name. I said, he's like, yeah, you lived over off of this road and this road. And all I'm thinking to myself, I've never saw this guy a day in my life. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this is an eye opener. So that's why I said I look at that story and I'm just like, there's so many other facts I can keep
Yeah.
getting into. It just gets deeper and deeper. Like I could tell you for days about this story, but like
Yeah.
with our time presented, like maybe
Right.
we'll do a second one or something. But with time
Right.
presented, like I just like looked at it. I was like, this is not my lifestyle. Like this isn't me. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I have so much more potential. And then moving to South Carolina, and when we first moved here, I got into a major accident with 2 semis, and yet here I still am. So it's like I'm meant to be here. Like I
Totally.
have a purpose.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of things that's happened in my life that I'm just like, okay, I could have laid down in defeat, or I could have lost and be done, or I could have been put in a crappy position. But like
Right.
it's like I looked at that and that particular situation and was like, that is like a part of me. Like that's the part of me that I'll never let go because that is what fuels me every day.
Yeah.
So
I think too, something that I really, really like about your story is, well, number one, I think you not shying away from anything is just
yeah.
so good,
Yeah.
because you shouldn't. But the
Yeah.
other thing is, I think when you're willing to be like straightforward and like
Mhm.
just say what it is, and you
Yeah.
don't like, it's part of your story, it's part of what brought you to where you are. And
Yeah.
when you're willing to have that vulnerability and that rawness, it gives other people permission to do the same. When
Yeah.
so many people are used to like hiding and covering up things,
Yeah.
and where it's like very refreshing when somebody is
Mhm.
willing to be like, hey, this is what happened, let me tell you the story.
Yeah.
And but also realize, like, two, stopping to realize, like, we have all done things that we are not proud of, every
Mhm.
single one of us. It might look
Yep.
a little different, but right is right and wrong is wrong regardless. And
100%.
and in so many of us, our really great parts now are built from starting at the pit of our bottom. And so
Yeah.
really it's a story of like, these are stories to be celebrated rather than like polished
Hidden.
up a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's what it is. It's like I just like I said, I was like, when I think about and I look back on it, I'm just like, hmm. I'm like, if it wasn't for that happening, like you asked earlier, if it wasn't for that happening, who knows where I would be? Would I be doing this? Would I have moved to South Carolina? Would I have left Flint? Probably not.
yeah,
Probably not. It took for that to make me realize, okay, I need to shift.
yeah,
Like I'm going to school to get a degree, but yet I'm doing this. But why am
yeah,
I doing this when I can do other things? If I got to struggle and not be involved with this, then that's fine, and like that was the one thing. And like obviously I probably posted on the Facebook about the toxic relationship I was in during the time. It was just a lot. And it was like I
yeah,
was just managing it like it was just normal. And it was like that's not normal.
yeah, right.
It's normal everyday life, but what my story does is it gives people hope, and that's what I
Yeah,
like. It's like people that's really like, oh, I can never do it. I'm like, oh, you definitely can.
yeah, yeah,
You can. You gotta have you gotta have something that gives you that little push over the edge. You gotta be standing looking over the cliff, and there's gotta be something that gives you a little bump, push you over.
right. I think it's like being brave enough to roll the dice on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And knowing that like feeling nervous or scared about something, that's not like a bad thing.
No.
It doesn't mean not to do it. It just means,
Yeah.
and you can use that as something that stops you. You can use it as fuel, like,
Yep.
you know,
I tell people all the time, like a lot of people like, oh, I got anxiety or there's anxiety here. I'm like, look, all anxiety is the simple fact is you don't know the outcome of the situation you're put into right now.
yeah,
Everybody gets that. You
yeah,
like I tell people, put me in front of a room of 100,000 people. Am I going to be nervous? Hell yeah. But will I be able to move those people in that room in a positive way? 100%. I already know myself. I trust myself. I
yeah,
already know. So it's like anything you do that's worth doing is going to give you anxiety because you don't know the outcome because you're putting yourself in a very uncomfortable position.
yeah,
And things that you shouldn't be doing that you put
yeah,
yourself in a position that's going to give you anxiety because you don't know the outcome of, like I said, when people go out there and commit crimes and things like that, major crimes. You think they're not nervous in the car? Hell yeah, they're nervous in the car. They're just trying to act like they're not. And at the end of the day, it works both ways, but it's like choose your heart.
yeah,
Do you want to
yeah.
use it to do something positive or do you want to use it to continue to do something negative? At
Mm-hmm.
that point in your life, you got to start doing the right thing to be
Yeah,
able to continue to move forward. And now, like, I've got a family, I've got a son. It's like, what type of example do I leave for him? Like, okay, this is the example I want to set. He may not follow it. He may look at me and be like, Dad, you're way too strict. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And he may go completely the opposite way. But at the end of the day, as long as I know I can find out how to support him in a way that it's positive in his way, he's going to do what he does regardless. And that's what I tell people with kids and stuff like that. Like a lot of my clients, they're like, what if my kid does this or I don't want my kid to do this or you can't stop your kids from doing. I
no,
mean, you think people want their kids like I'll tell you this one quick thing. I went into a school in Birmingham, Michigan, and I was like, they wanted me to come there as like an entrepreneur and talk to them. And the first thing I said to these high school kids is I was like, and they kind of paused me for a second. They said, hold on, because it was harsh, but it was honest. And I said, valedictorians, whatever it may be, the kids you're picking on right here. I said, I want to tell you guys something right now. Your success here in high school isn't going to determine where you're at in your real life.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, my valedictorian became a heroin addict.
yep,
And I was
yep,
like, and they stopped me and they were like, ugh. And I was like, they were like, hold on one second. And they pulled me to the side. They said, we got to be careful. What they say. And I was like, that's real life. Like, I can't lie to these kids. Like,
mm-hmm.
I told my 7-year-old nephews, I don't know what path you guys are going to take. All I can do is mold you into taking the right path.
Yeah,
What path you take is that you're going to get
that's
16,
you.
15, 16, 17. You're going to take your own path. Some kids do it at 13.
Yeah,
Like a lot of people don't know what some people, I had a buddy. I didn't find out till he was like 16, 17 years old. He was coming home every day. His mom was never home. He had
mm,
been fending for himself since he was 13.
mm,
People don't know the back ends of certain stories. And
yeah,
I'm like, you got to find out the story first and then judge a
so
person off
true.
what they're doing. And it's tough, but it's like,
Yeah,
and they're like, I can't believe the parent didn't do this. The parent was in the streets. The parent was drugged out. They didn't
yeah,
care. Well, how did they make it to 13? I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. But all I know is that that's their reality, and some people may not know that reality, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And and as harsh as it gets with the things, like I can always tell people I will always be honest, because
Hmm.
I've saw the good, I saw the bad, I saw the ugly, and there's also things out there that's worse that I haven't saw, but
Yeah.
I know that they're happening. And it's like that's the one thing like I always stand behind. And that's why I had to tell that story about the school,
Yeah.
because they looked at me like I was crazy, and I'm like, listen, it's
Yes.
the truth. It's the truth. And you guys called me here to tell these kids a relatable story, and that's about as relatable gets.
It's true. It's real
It's
life. And I say that to my kids all the time. I'm like, so my kids are in high school.
mhm.
And I always say, like, how well you do in school or don't do in school is no indication of your future success at
Yeah,
all.
not
0%.
even close.
Zero
0%.
percent. And
Yep.
it has more to do with, your grit and your drive. Um, you
Ability to
know,
adapt.
yeah, it's so funny. I call it AQ, your adaptability quotient, kind of like,
Yep.
your
Yep.
IQ, you got your smarts, you got your EQ, you got your emotional intelligence, and then you got your
Yep.
AQ, which is your adaptability.
Yep.
And I think adaptability moving forward is going to be huge, like
Oh yeah.
in our world in the next
Oh
5 to 10
yeah.
years is probably going to be the biggest of all pieces.
Oh yeah, because when you leave high school, it's like I'm seeing it here in Charleston. You get a lot of these kids that's overwhelmed because they're high achievers in high school, and then they get introduced to college with no parent supervision other than responsible themselves. Their grades aren't there. They're liking the party. They're going out having fun with their friends, and they're
Yeah,
not able to manage their time at 18. And then they're feeling like failures. And it's like,
yeah,
and their parents are making them feel like they're not good enough. And which some parents manage that really well. And then
mhm,
other parents are so strict on their kids on that category, instead of sitting them
yeah,
down and being like, look, what you're doing is completely normal.
yeah,
It's completely normal. Like, it's okay. Like, tell your kids it's okay when things like that happen. Don't, like, always tell them, if you want to be an astronaut, be a damn astronaut, but I'm gonna
yeah,
tell you the work it takes to get there.
hmm,
Now, when you fall off a little bit, that's normal.
yeah,
There's adults that can't, like, go back to discipline. There's
yeah,
adults that aren't disciplined. You're
yeah,
18 years old, you got time, but the thing is there's a way to create that discipline at a young age by letting it's everything you're doing right now is okay.
hmm,
But you do have to shift a little bit, or if you continue to go this route, this will be your outcome. Now you
hmm,
can maneuver just a little bit and try this, and this might work. And I
yeah,
always say this and that because every person's situation is different. So I don't want to streamline one way, like,
yeah,
oh, well, if you go to school or go to class, like, that's not the case. Some kids never go to class and place top in their class because they're better with watching videos than they are reading a book.
right,
So
right,
it's like I had to learn that the hard way in college. So it's like it's one of those things. Like, I was a visual learner, and they used to slam these $1,000 books in front of my face, and I would never read them. I'm like, and I had like a 2.5 like my sophomore year in college at Michigan, and I'm like, I'm about to get kicked out. There's no way I'm
yeah,
gonna still. And then finally they were like, I sat down, I was like, I'm not buying a single book my junior and senior year, and I just started using like videos, YouTube, learning whatever we were going through in the syllabus that day. And I would just,
mhm,
and then I had a 3.8. And it was like,
yeah,
I'm just a visual learner. And they streamlined this one way. And I'm like, some people don't operate that way. Like, and
yeah,
it's like, don't push this so hard on the kids. Like, find out what they work with best. Like, you got to be, available for them when they're struggling like that. If not, they're
hmm,
going to feel, I don't like seeing kids such young ages feel like failures. You know what I mean? Cause
no,
it's like, I'll be 36 actually in 9 days.
no. Happy early
So
birthday.
yeah, thank you. I'll be 36 in 9 days. And it's like, I don't even have it all together some days. There's some days I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? And even though I have everything scheduled, planned out, seems like I got it all together, there's still a lot of things that I need to work on, and there's still other things that my mentors that they're working on. Like, your life is a constant battle of adaptability and improvement, and it's
Hmm.
like, the sooner you learn that, is what I teach people. The sooner you learn that, the better off your life will get. Is because it's
True.
like, when you run into a wall, it's gonna be like, okay, this is normal. Instead of being like, I'm a failure. Like, no,
Hmm.
this is completely normal. This is normal.
Yeah,
Stop, reevaluate your situation, and figure out a solution.
right.
We got to build more. Give kids more confidence to
Oh
problem
yeah,
solve.
like figure out a way forward, the critical thinking skills that are associated with that, right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Yep.
All right, Curtis, I think we're going to have to do a part two
Uh-oh. All
because
right.
I think we're going to have to schedule it because I'd like to start with you. Like you hit on some stuff with college
Hmm.
that I want to dig into, but for the sake of time, I think
Yes.
let's wrap up part one. And if you're willing to do a part two with me,
Absolutely.
I have like a bunch of more questions, and I'd actually like to start like because you mentioned some stuff on school, and I want to talk with you about that too because
Yeah.
I actually I have my AA degree, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I was like solid C student in high
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
and so I just want to like compare notes with you because like from some
Yeah.
of the things that you're saying, it matches my experience as well. And
Yeah.
so just kind of digging into that and then kind of running your story in a little bit more depth forward, I think would be super good for part two.
Yeah. Let's do
So,
it. I'm
all right,
always open for that.
that sounds good. All right, well,
Yeah.
Curtis, thank you for
Yes,
being with
ma'am.
me today. It was a pleasure to talk with you. I think your story is amazing, and what you've created from it is even more amazing. And if you are in the Charleston, South Carolina area, or if you're interested in a fitness coaching, all of Curtis's contact information will be in our meeting notes. So
All
thank
right.
you again.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for having me, Beth.